Hey vinyl community, it's Mazzy here, and this is one of my potpourri mashup, smash up videos of some new records I've acquired over the last few weeks, plus one VCLT, plus, let's get this background little, kind of I didn't do my Virgo setup initially. Okay, I'm off. Oh well, it's off. See, the bottom is up like this. I like the mise-en-scène of the natural, the aesthetic beauty of the side key light coming in with a good. Anyway, we're listening to Esquivel, some kind of Latin-y, loungy, what they call bachelor pad music CD. Love this stuff. First, VCLT. Always a connection. If you watch me regularly, you know there's always a Beatles connection. So, Emma, 8 vinyl low, Ms. Cheap Trick of America, Cheap Trick of America 2020, sent me this CD, which, you know, I think I knew about this, but for some reason I passed on it. Cheap Trick did the entire album of Sgt. Pepper. I know they did several live performances of this because I do know Cheap Trick, and I am aware. But there's always a connection. This is Cheap Trick doing the entire album. Oh, co-produced by Jeff Emerick. I don't know if you know this, Emma. Jeff Emerick was the engineer on all the Beatle albums from Revolver pretty much till the end. A great autobiography of his. Some Beatle fanatics think he got some things wrong, but they're a little too tweaky in my opinion. I think it's a fabulous book. Produced by Bill Edwards, Lou Mann, and whatever, we don't care. But it looks like it has a Cheap Trick Sgt. Pepper guitar pick. And we all know Rick Nielsen is famous showing his, throwing out his picks at concerts. I haven't opened this yet. I haven't heard this particular one, but thank you, Emma. It's so sweet of you. And Emma, again, is the Cheap Trick fanatic. I have all the Cheap Trick albums. I have that box set. I used to have them all over the years, or at least the first 4. I've told the story before. My first Cheap Trick experience is a great one. I saw them twice only, but the very first time was a showcase that Columbia Records was putting on at the Old Waldorf. Small club, holds a couple hundred people at best. In San Francisco, and it was right when the first Cheap Trick album came out, so nobody knew who they were. So it was, people from radio stations were invited, some fans, early, I don't know if they were fans because they didn't know the band yet, and record people, and we got promo tickets, and it was like bar tables. So you're sitting in a bar, in a club setup. So around the back you could stand near the bar and everything, but a place I went frequently. And they were great. They were fun. Didn't know anything about them. And while I was waiting there, this guy sits right in front of me at the table in front of me. Tall guy with all this big kind of curly, wavy hair. And he kind of blocked my way, so I remember pivoting my seat. Then after a little while, he turned and I recognized him. It was Brian May from Queen. And I don't know if it was that night or, well, obviously not that night. The next night or the previous night, Queen had played in San Francisco. So I sat behind Brian May watching the first Cheap Trick concert. But thank you, Emma. Some new records, all basically reissues, or not reissues and, well, reissues. So, I don't know how I skipped. I do have one CD, but for some reason I skipped Stereolab. You know, loungy, psychedelic, shoegaze. I don't need to tell you the story. You guys know more about them than I do. The reissues series started several years ago. Expanded, beautiful packaged albums. Dots and Loops. And Dots and Loops is not just a vinyl community member. But these are beautiful. And if you haven't seen one, I'm not going to open them all up, but they're trifolds. They have posters, and it's not a trifold in this case, but posters, and this is a 3-record set or 2-record set. Beautiful music. I like the mood of this one quite a bit. So we'll see if I continue and go on with them. But I got these three. And then, so little Stereolab is something fun. Now, another record that I got that just came out, and it was pretty hard to get. I had the CD of it, so I know the music. And this is the Rainbow Children, and this is Prince when he came back, calling himself Prince again after divorcing himself from the Prince name and using that logo for several years. He came back independently, put this out. Now, this is not a Prince album for everyone, but I've always loved this record. It's a fusion jazz record. It's got sort of thematic, it's a thematic concept album. There's some talking, but great, almost like hard bop jazz stuff and fusion. Instrumentally, it's wonderful, but it's not your typical funk Prince record, soul record like most shrimp Prince fans desire. But I think it's a gorgeous record, and I'm a big fan. This copy, for some reason, came with a promo turntable mat, which I never use on my table because I think, you know, be careful about these things depending on the way your turntable's set up, because it might not, might have to reset your arm and your tracking and everything, because it could make it too high or too low. I mean, they look cool, but to me they're just sort of a novelty thing, so I'll keep it in the case. But cool artwork, double LP version. Again, has a beautiful arty book. I like what the Prince estate is doing. I was working several years ago in Minneapolis. I'd go there every other year for work, and I finished my work, so Friday morning I took a car out about a half hour, 35 minutes out of Minneapolis, and went to Paisley Park, the whole complex. Amazing, sort of industrial, kind of modernist complex. Looks like maybe a tech office, but there was tours, and this was exactly just one day shy of a year after Prince passed away. Fabulous tour, sad but wonderful. It's an amazing compound, somewhat interior at the time, somewhat 80s dated in terms of the interior design and color schemes. But I mean, he has a stage in there that they would do after concerts. I mean, obviously the studios are in there. He lived there. It's where he died, unfortunately. But they'd have a lot of after parties, and even after parties and shows that locals were invited to by some extent. He would sometimes show up at 3, 4, 5 in the morning and play along, and sometimes not. So this is a cool record. Again, if you're into the jazzy thing about things, you'll like this. The typical soulster Prince. Got a little psychedelic in it, but not so much. But well worth it. Haven't heard the album version yet because it just came through the other day. Now, Julius Jabbar Sherv did his favorite jazz women records, musicians, and he showed this record. How did I fucking miss this woman? Maki Asakawa. This came out in 2015. It's a comp of her work. I really thought it was someone current or the last year. This is someone who's born in 1940 or 1941. She died in 2010. Japanese avant-garde jazz, very influenced by Billie Holiday, soulful, gospel, Mahalia Jackson influence. Just a gorgeous record, very loungy, soft, minimal, a little conceptual in a way. There's one song on, I think it opens side 2, this is a double LP. Again, this is a comp of a bunch of her albums, and it's really, really good. I mean, this is my new favorite record of anything right now, and I just totally miss this woman. I don't know how, after 40 years, never heard of her. Sings in Japanese, and it's gorgeous. One song is right out of, you can see Quentin Tarantino from this using her music. I'd say the cooler stuff is the 70s stuff. I think she really started just at the beginning of the decade of the 70s. Went on from there, recorded something like 28 records. Never saw any of them. I guess they weren't released in the United States domestically. I don't know that, and I never followed the CDs, but Again, a beautiful double album. Wonderful artist, and it comes out with a beautiful book. I mean, she's very photogenic, very in the avant-garde, you know, wearing all black, minimalist scene, which actually in this video I'm doing a little birthday celebration of an artist that is kind of like that on a different level. So anyway, totally worth it. If you follow my channel and you follow, anyway, minimalist, loungy, jazzy cabaret, but very intimate and very beautiful. Highly recommended. This is probably going to be one of my favorite albums this year, although it didn't come out this year. So could I still put it on my best of lists on 2020, 2021 vinyl tag? I think I will, just because. And thanks, Sherv, Julius Jabbar. This is incredible, incredible. And then 3 Music Matters jazz records. The great Horace Silver, one of the most samples of the Blue Note artist. He was sampled during the whole 90s rage of hip-hop artists pulling out Blue Note records. Most people know his Songs for My Father. This is really good. A little Latin influence. Got Roger Humphreys on drums, Bob Crenshaw, Horace Silver piano, Joe Henderson tenor sax, J.J. Johnson trombone, and Woody Shaw. So a lot, very brassy, but very beautiful. What year did this came out? This came out in 1965. Tina Brooks is a favorite of mine, and I know Dave Local Bandography just showed True Blue. I think it was True Blue, right? By Tina Brooks in the 4000 series. So watch that 4000 series, that Blue Note that's going around, that a number of people are contributing to. If you want to learn about Blue Note, that's a fun way to have everyone do it. So this is a cool album. Now, this is an after the fact, because he died younger than this. This originally came out after Tina Brooks passed away, so it didn't come out during his life period. And I think this was originally compiled by Michael Cascuna, probably maybe during the Mosaic years, or during the 70s reissue stuff and unreleased stuff that Blue Note was doing when Michael Cascuna was curating the Blue Note catalog, and the Francis Wolff photographs. So this is not a normal release in terms of Blue Note. So even though it's a 4000 here, I'm not sure if this would be included in the 4000 series or not. And lastly, in terms of this section, an amazing album, and this fits right in our times. Recorded in 1968, Speak Like a Child by Herbie Hancock. Herbie actually pulled this picture and suggested to them, Francis Wolff and Reed Miles, to use the picture. So, produced by Duke Pearson. Songs like Riot, Speak Like a Child, First Trip, Toys, Goodbye to Childhood, The Sorcerer. Very topical now, very in 1968 when really Herbie started fusing rock and roll, a little bit of rock with jazz. So it's not your typical purist Blue Note, which nothing really is. It's how you take it. But this is a beautiful recording. I think a lot of people aren't familiar with this. I knew the CD. I have it on a collection, this music on the Blue Note box set I have of Herbie Hancock. Never had an original album or a reissue at all. Herbie Hancock, Thad Jones, flugelhorn, Ron Carter, who was part of the great quintet, Peter Phillips, bass trombone, Jerry Dodgian, alto flute, and Mickey Roker on drums. So I am kind of trying to really build up my Music Matters Jazz audiophile label. I know people have issues because of the price and everything. I figure I'm getting them now while I can, a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 every month or every other month, depending on how things work out, because they are going out of print and I don't think their licensing is going to go. Now, having said that, we love the Tone Poets, and hopefully Tone Poet and even the Blue Note 90s, 80s, which we'll probably get to 85s next. are wonderful records. Tone Poet especially, because the price point, $27 to $35, is like half what these are in some cases. These are 50 to 80. But you know, if you're into things like mobile fidelity, and you know the price is only going up, and you can't get originals, pure, beautiful originals for that. Again, that discussion is ad nauseum on these sites, including my site, and including a lot of the other friends here, good and bad, how you see them. But the covers, the packaging are stunning, the sound is stunning. Now, 2 out of the 3 of these are 45 RPM. I've discussed that. Better sounding, do you want to get up and shut off? Well, turn the record over after 10 minutes or 8 minutes, whatever. I'm getting older, I need the exercise. I'm not getting a lot of exercise, especially during this pandemic. So, lastly, it's the 5th of June, and it's a birthday. We're going to celebrate a birthday. Is it the 5th of June or the 6th of June? Well, it's today, 5th of June. And I'm going to feature at the very end for the last few close out with Laurie Anderson. Laurie Anderson, conceptual artist, performance artist, multimedia artist. Fell in love with her when I found this single, 1981. I was just out of the record business, and this came in as an independent. This was the single version. It was not affiliated with Warner Brothers. It was from a grant from the NEA, and in America, that's the National Endowment of the Arts. And it was Oh Superman, backed with I Walk the Dog. This is an EP. I love this record. When I first heard Oh Superman, and I think most of you have heard it, if not, I'm going to try to play it on the rollout here at the end of the video. Amazing artist. Now, Laurie Anderson, I've seen her 5 times over the years. She's really progressed and gone into, you know, cinema and books and multimedia. First time I saw her was at the Kabuki Theater in San Francisco, and she did songs from her first album. Was her second album out then? I don't know, but projection, rear projection, multimedia, slides, movies. What she invented early on, which was a big part of her recordings and act, is instead of a violin, she played violin a lot, and keyboards, and loops, tape loops and things. Her violin, instead of having cat hair, had magnetic tape on it. So it was magnetic tape that you'd use in a tape recorder. That's what magnetic tape is. And the bridge would be a recording head. So she would do sound loops and sound recordings on using the violin. But this was her first album. Warner Brothers picked her up after that. She released this album called Big Science. Wonderful, perfect album. I love the aesthetic of this album. It does have Oh Superman, which is an amazing track, but it has From the Air, Big Science, Let X Equal X Tango, which is quite a beautiful recording. But I love that Warner Brothers let her do what she does. So gorgeous record, beautiful sounding record, and I'm a fan. Sharky's back, Mr. Heartbreak, 2 versions of Sharky's back, and William Burroughs plays on it. Peter Gabriel's on this. Love this record. A little more commercial, and this charted better than the first one, but you know, she kind of touched over in commerciality for a while, and a lot of these great artists like Peter Gabriel and others were attracted by her and did some collaborations with her. But again, anytime, if you, to this day, you get a chance to see her, there's been film work she's done, conceptual. Look on YouTube and see her talks and her experience there. So this is an amazing set. This is United States Live. This was a multimedia, ongoing conceptual piece of music she did. This was on Warner Brothers Records. What year was this? I don't know, it's mid-80s, I guess. But beautiful packaging. 4-record set. 5-record set. really transplendent. This is like an 86, 87, 86 live, Home of the Brave. And this is a soundtrack to a performance movie, not unlike Talking Heads, the concert film, but in her way. So it's performance, dance, projection, cinema. Beautiful record, great sounding record. Has some of the 80s flourishes, good or bad, but I think it works in this type of thing. And I remember when I got the CD, the vinyl, and then the CD of this, and I would play this all the time. I love this record. Warner Brothers record, and this is a cover. Yep, covered by Robert Mapplethorpe, the great late amazing photographer who was a friend of Patti Smith and recorded or actually photographed Horses, a cover of her album. Did this wonderful album. This is a little more Strange Angels, Monkey's Paw. Again, this is a little more commercial, but still has that artistic left to center sensibility. Love this record. Everything else I have on compact disc, so I'll go through it quickly. Again, not in any real order, I don't think. There's Bright Red, again on another on Warner Brothers records. She moves to Non-Such. Non-Such seems to be the place where old rockers and older people, when the record company, the main major labels don't want you, you go to Non-Such. Think about it. Randy Newman, Non-Such. Ry Cooder went to Non-Such. Emmylou Harris went to Non-Such. Laurie Anderson went to Non-Such. Obviously, they're the ones that picked up Wilco when Wilco exploded, because they have a left-to-center sensibility. They have, John Adams, 20th century minimalist music, 21st century Kronos Quartet, Steve Reich, a lot of that great music. I've shown a little bit of that. There's people out there that show it better than I do, but I love that minimalist stuff. But this, I don't know if this was the first one on Non-Such, but Life on a String. Now, they did put out, or this is a Rhino. This is after the Warner Brothers years. This is actually a great collection. If you want an introduction to her and you're into CD, the Laurie Anderson anthology. You've all seen these are Rhino anthologies. They've done Warren Zevon. They did like a plethora of these things. 2 CD set with, again, beautiful art, beautiful book. But I would say if you're just dabbling into Laurie Anderson, this would be a good overview. I still get the first Warner Brothers record with Oh Superman. If you just were looking for one record of hers on vinyl, that's the one to go to, in my opinion. And you're watching my channel, so everything here is going to be my opinion. And then lastly, I'm going to close out with this. And Laurie Anderson at Town Hall in New York. What's really chilling about this record, this is recorded September 19th and 20th, 2001 in New York City. This is 8 days after 9/11, after the tragedy that happened. And in the liner notes of this, I think, or in an interview I read, but I think it's in the liner notes of this because this came out, I think, a year after that. It's sort of an overview of her work, but it's also part of her Live in America, or American conceptual piece of theater, musical theater. She does a version of Oh Superman, and then at the end of the Superman, I'm going to try to put it at the end of here, there's a thing, Here Come the Planes, American Planes Made in America. And apparently it was a chill in the audience for a lot of reasons. Think about this, a week after 9/11, her singing that in New York City about the planes. Here come the planes, the American planes, made in America. Beautiful piece of music. Again, one of my favorites. A little side note, I don't know if you know this, but from, was it 2005 maybe? I don't know, in the 2000s up until his death, she was married to Lou Reed, the great Lou Reed, and they lived together in New York City. great artistic companion. I wish they did more together. I'm not really. They never did a full album together, but I just love it. She is part of the curation of Lou Reed's catalog, I think, to this point. At least oversees it and is the executor. But Laurie Anderson, happy birthday, and vinyl community, and I hope everyone's hanging in there during these tempestuous times. But this kind of music, to me, is wonderful. There's something about, it's not soul music like the cliche of soul music, but it's soulful in what she's talking about. It's political with artistic overtones. It's not overtly political, but it really is. So, Mazzy loves you. Thanks for watching.
Here come the plane. So you better get ready, ready to go. You can come as you are, but pay as you go. Pay as you go. And I said, okay, who is this really? And the voice said, this is the hand that takes. This is the hand that takes. This is the hand that takes. Here come the planes. They're American planes, made in America. Smoking or non-smoking?